installation work?
I don't think so. We say, as a company, that our equipment is capable of being installed by anyone, and we make sure that our drawings are as simple as we can make them.
Now, apart from taking staff over from England to install the equipment here, has it any other advantages?
Oh, I think so. If the operating staff are involved in the installation, they can see where each individual piece goes, and they have a vested interest in it. They know that if their workmanship is high, their life when they're operating is much easier and not so much likelihood of a fault.
Did you have any problems at all?
Not really. One or two small ones, but nothing that we haven't managed to get over.
I hope it keeps like that.
Mahara then is well on the way to completion. From Clare we now go north to Trustmore in County Sligo, where the transmitter there is due to open very soon.
I'm talking to you from way up in the clouds. I'm right on the top of Trustmore, where Television are building their County Sligo transmitter. I'm 2,100 feet above sea level, and right here in this highest peak of the Ben Bulben range, we have the mast from which on a clear day you can see as far as the north coast of Mayo on the one side and the Killybegs coast of Donegal on the other. But today you can see nothing but cloud and mist. To get here we travelled 21 miles from Sligo, sometimes driving at less than 10 miles per hour. When this project was started, the first thing the County Council had to do was lay down this 2.5 miles of approach road up the lonely mountain side. The ESB laid on power, and work proper in the transmitter was started last winter. Now that work is in the final stages of completion.
Trustmore will transmit on the 405 and 625 line standards. The engineer in charge is Eamon Gallagher. He heads a staff of 9. And now we travel right across the country to Mount Leinster on the Carlow-Wexford border. Mount Leinster is the highest transmitter of all, being more than 2,600 feet above sea level. The road to it is the highest in Ireland. You can go down only in first gear, and it was built by Paddy Barnard, Carlow's county engineer. I asked him what it was like before work started.
It was just a plain mountain, sheep grazing on it. There was a small goat track at the end, up to some turf banks, and from that it was just a mountain.
And how did you set about laying down the road?
Well, we brought out our machinery, excavators and shovels, cut our way through the mountain, blasted rocks where it was necessary, laid a road with material taken from a pit, and surface dressed.
What kind of difficulties had you?
Well, of course, there was a transport difficulty, bringing material up from a level of 1,500 feet up to 2,610. That was one difficulty. And then, of course, we had difficulty with water. We had to make sure the drainage of the road was right. Otherwise, the road would be swept away.
How did you manage during the icy weather?
Well, we hadn't got icy weather at that time, because we started in March and ended at about August.
How long is the road?
Little bit over 1.5 miles.
And how long did it take you to set it down?
Approximately 6 months.
How many men were working on it?
27.
How about the controversy about the King's Tomb up here?
Well, of course, that is the trigonometrical point on the top of the hill. It's not a King's Tomb at all.
And how about maintaining the road?
Well, it'll have to get its ordinary maintenance every year, make sure that the storm damage doesn't do any damage, or frost, or snow.
And that's about it?
And that's about it.
In laying down a road is only one of the problems about putting up these transmitters. The engineer in charge of the transmitters is Mr. John O'Keefe. Mr. O'Keefe, why have you picked the tops of mountains, and apparently the most inaccessible mountains at that?
Well, the reason of that is this. In 1952, at the Stockholm Conference, where the frequencies for the various countries were distributed, we only got 5 channels. And to try, Ireland is too small to use the same channel more than once in the country. So it meant we had to try and cover the country with 5 channels, that is 5 transmitters. And of course the range increases the higher you get the transmitter, and of course the cheapest way to get height is to put your transmitters on mountain tops. You could do it of course by using very high masts, but then masts are very, very expensive, particularly the higher you go. So the roads were to rather provide the transmitters on mountain tops was the cheapest way of doing it. Then of course the question was, having decided on mountain tops, which mountains? Well, the normal way of doing that would be to do a lot of draw a lot of lines on maps and get contours and so on to get your shadow areas and so forth. But we thought of a different way of doing it. We used a relief map and small lamps simulating a transmitter. Put the small lamp on top of a mountain top, had the lamp lighting, and took a photograph of the map then with the map just illuminated by that lamp. And that way, by comparing the shadow areas you got from the lamp on different peaks, you got the sort of optimum mountains to give you the minimum shadow area.
How do you get the programs from the studios in Dublin to the transmitters?
Well, they'll be done by high-frequency microwave links. They're being provided for us by the post office. The program will originate here in Dublin and then go from Dublin to Kipure by microwave link, and then from Kipure up to Sligo, and also then from Kipure to Mount Leinster, Mullaghanish and Mahara also by microwave link. Each of those microwave links have to have repeater stations approximately every 30 miles, and say these are being provided by the post office.
We've seen a lot of the troubles you've had. Could any of the delays have been avoided?
Perhaps one delay which possibly could have been avoided was the delay in the steel. As Mr. Walderhoe, I think, indicated, they had difficulty in getting the correct quality steel. The first steel that was delivered to them was the wrong quality from a point of view of weldability, so they had to abandon the steel that was originally given to them and get fresh steel. And of course that delayed them something of the order of about 5 months. Well, that delay in a sense could have been avoided. Otherwise I think there's no other of the delays which are mainly due to weather and the difficulties due to a very wet season. As you know, this summer was wetter than normal, and consequently the difficulties they had in excavating for the mast holes and erecting the buildings and so on were greater than normal.
And finally, why are you putting up temporary masts?
Well, the point is, due to these delays in steel delivery and so on, the masts are behindhand, and we have all the rest of the equipment. The transmitters are there, the buildings are there, and we actually have the aerials. But without the masts, of course, we can't erect the aerials on top of them. So we got the idea to bring the service a little bit earlier to the people in the areas. By putting up these temporary masts, at least we can get a service of reduced power, which I think will cover the bulk of the area served.
There you've seen some of the problems and the difficulties involved in setting up a network of television transmitters. I can assure you that everyone here in Telefishern is looking forward to the day, which isn't very far away, when all these transmitters will be in full operation. Good night.